Hey you heroes! Welcome to Marvel Champions Monthly, a fan cast about the card game Marvel Champions by Fantasy Flight Games. Thanks for joining us as we complete heroic deeds and thwart the villains' evil schemes.
Hey everyone, welcome to Marvel Champions Monthly. We are a fan podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. I'm Amerikano, and I have two other hosts with me tonight. I have Crimson, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, guys?
And I have Attercop, how are you doing?
Dan's not here, so I'm actually Dan.
Oh, okay. All right. You're a Skrull?
Yeah, I'm not supposed to. Damn it, I'm not supposed to tell people that.
So,
all right, I'm just saying.
So tonight, because Kennedy Hawk's not here, we'll get into Mojo Mania next, the next episode when he's back. But we wanted to talk a little bit, have a little bit of fun, not talking about new content, but talking about having sort of the look back at where the game's at so far in the perspective, or from the perspective of the teams that we have. So we have 5 main teams. In Marvel Champions, we have the Avengers, Champions, Guardians, Web Warriors, and X-Men. And we're going to be using terms like teams and tribes and stuff. And for those that don't know, we'll have Crimson right now kind of talk about it from a Magic the Gathering background and perspective, what that means, and in how that ties into the context of Marvel Champions.
Yeah, surprise suckers, we're talking about Magic tonight.
Buckle up. Yeah, so there's definitely a couple terms that are going to be used quite a bit. Big one is the term tribe. Tribe refers generally to a creature type. So in Magic, the original tribes would be like merfolk, elf, zombie, soldier, those kind of things. Later, they became much more massive. But for the purposes of this, think of it as a group of like beings. Another word that you may hear, at least out of me, is going to be archetype or sub-archetype. Those are going to be what you would consider like control, combo, aggro, which we generally associate to the aspects and not the actual teams. So a lot of this might be associating archetype to the aspects versus tribe to the teams. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Okay. So when we're talking about teams or even tribes, I guess, how does that relate to Marvel Champions? Like, where are we even looking at the cards for these things?
So yeah, tribes and Marvel Champions are going to be like your Guardians, your Champion, your X-Men,
Gamma.
Avenger. Yeah, I mean, could be definitely if we get more Gamma.
So specifically, we're looking at the traits on the hero cards, right?
Generally, and other cards. So like with Guardians, you have a lot of them have abilities that say that you can only play allies of those tribes. Where you may have X-Men cards where some of the locations will have the tribe. We'll say like
right.
X-Men, X-Force. With Avengers, it's a lot more larger because there's so much more of it. But yeah, like if they were to redo Avengers Mansion today, it would be a tribal card. It would say Avenger identity only.
Right. Okay. So Attercop, with these 5 main teams, is there any sort of cohesion that you've seen? Let's go through each one, I guess, and we'll have you lead the discussion, and then Crimson and I will kind of chime in with from the peanut gallery. But so like the Avengers first, do you see any overarching themes or like I guess things that Avengers want to do or excel at or things like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, not particularly, and I think that's a cause because some of the first cards we got were Avengers, right? Some of the most impactful cards that we got early were Avengers themed, but not necessarily Avengers restrictive.
Mhm.
There are certain cards that we got a little bit later. Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a pretty good example, I would say, because the Avengers work in a way where they'll dispatch the people that are fit for the job. Like they need to get an infiltrate, so they're going to send Wasp, Black Widow, and maybe like Hawkeye.
So,
So it makes sense that you bench your guys like Hulk and you send in your guys like Wasp.
so does that like jibe with the comics and in like the scope or the reach of the Avengers? How it's like more of like a worldwide
Oh, I'd say
team.
absolutely.
Okay.
In
'Cause,
the
I mean
case of Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
okay. And that's like the vibe I get from the Avengers. Obviously we're a few years into the game. We have like 20 Avengers heroes and like the
Mhm.
support in the card pool that somehow interacts with or at least just has like maybe even just the Avenger trait on it. It's so large. I mean
Yeah,
it's
and
the
it's
biggest of any
kind
of
of
the teams.
generically good.
Yeah. I mean it is, right? I spoiler, I don't know that it's my favorite of the teams. We'll talk about that at the end. Um maybe it's the most powerful, maybe not. But yes, I think that just the sheer volume of cards that I would consider being in the Avengers team, like whether it's the heroes or support, it's just so much. There's so much.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree with you. I think that in general, the only thing that I'm seeing from the cards that carry into the actual theme of the Avengers is what I mentioned, like kind of catering the team to the job and being able to rearrange your guys. Um, and also, they were we had Avengers Tower first, so they were kind of the first example of a team build that could go beyond the limitations of the game, and that also fits with the theme in that there's infinity in Avengers.
okay. What about let's go to champions. Do you see? So I say champions next because we had Miss Marvel really early on in the game.
Yeah,
Obviously, I think that we had a lot more of a Guardians team before we had it like enough to call a quote unquote team the champions team, right?
yeah.
Um, but at this stage of the game with Ironheart, Miss Marvel, Nova, and Miles, right? Miles is a champion. Um, what do you guys think about the champions team as far as the comics are concerned in theme and the support that we get through basic cards and non-hero cards?
I think that generally, I mean, I've read very little champions, but they are like an underdog team, and in sort of like a meta way, I would say that their cards definitely fit them thematically because they have access to two extremely strong cards that are champions exclusive with Mobile Bunker and Go for Champions.
Oh yes, both of those cards are awesome.
Yeah, so in that way, you may underestimate characters that you've like never heard of or don't have like the face power that Avengers characters or Spider characters have, and then they surprise you with this card that just says, "By the way, guys, this turn we're not losing."
So let me ask you guys about that, and I want to get your thoughts, Crimson. Do you feel like those two cards specifically, Champions Mobile Bunker and Go for Champions, are like necessary for you to play if you're playing a Champions hero?
Yes.
Right, you
Yeah.
Attercop.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like at this point, now that the card exists, I'm going to dedicate the at least the single deck space to a copy of each.
So I'll just read it really quick. So Champions Mobile Bunker is a basic support. It costs 2. Hero action. Exhaust Champions Mobile Bunker. Choose an identity with the champion trait. The player who controls that identity may draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards from their hand. So it's deck cycling, right?
Yep.
Which in a card game, I mean, it's second to card draw, right?
Like I'd
Mhm.
even go farther and say that that's the reason to play champions.
Is to get the Champions Mobile Bunker out.
Yep, to get both of those cards, yeah, because Deck cycling is so good in this game.
Yeah. And there's very little reason to be afraid to go through your deck to
Yeah,
cycle
and
through it, right?
and Champions has good characters like Ironheart.
And then and then Go for Champions is a basic event that costs 3. It does have a max 1 per deck restriction, and you can only play it if you have the champion trait. But hero action, each champion character in play cannot take damage until the end of the round. So that's if you play that you're playing it during the hero phase, any damage through the end of the villain phase, no champion character can take damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which that's what you were talking about, right?
Right.
Attercop,
You pay 3 and you just say we're not losing this turn.
So let me ask you this: both of your answers were unequivocally yes. Put these cards in your champions deck, right? I think
Right.
we
Mine
only
was
have one copy.
unequivocally make a deck so that way you can play these cards.
So-
Yeah, that is slightly different. That's significant.
Okay, that's fair. So, do you feel like that takes away from the heroes then? The
No,
4 champions heroes we have, because it's like, well, I'm building. Maybe you are, Crimson, building around Go for Champions or building around, right, cycling, but you're building around that card as opposed to building around the hero.
No, I actually prefer to have so another terminology is like packet or playset. They're cards that you instantly put into the deck, and then you worry about the rest afterwards. Like they're your base. They're almost like your kit, but they're not hero specific.
So like, for example, at the beginning, early, like when the game first started, a basic package or packet would be like Nick Fury, Mockingbird, and Strength, Energy, and Genius. Right? You're gonna throw those 5 cards essentially into every single deck, and then you have 20 cards already in your deck. Now go fill it with 20 other cards.
Yeah. So if I'm grabbing a champion's character, I'd like to have a staples a packet that I know I'm going to play with that character.
Amerikano, you're learning, and I'm so proud of you right now.
Hey, I'm going to tell you, I love the champions. I love champions. And these 2 cards are like Go for Champions is, as a protection player, this might be one of my favorite cards in the game. Like, it might be my favorite card in the game. Like realistically, it could be. It's up there for my favorite card in the game.
Yeah, it also helps that champions have a couple A-class heroes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say it. Miss Marvel's up there.
No.
Absolutely.
No, she wasn't even anything I was considering. I was considering.
You want to lose our subscriber numbers?
No, they're subscribed to see how bad I shit on Miss Marvel.
I have to edit that. All right.
Yep. You knew there was going to be editing once you brought up Miss Marvel, okay?
I didn't do it. I mean,
so okay, so yeah, the Guardians. Let's talk about the Guardians, because they're the next. So far, they're the second biggest team that we have,
and the worst
in the game.
Oilers.
Obviously, X-Men is going to surpass Guardians really soon, and I'm sure X-Men will surpass Avengers. By the time this game is done,
in every way.
I'm just talking sheer numbers, but sure, yeah. So let's talk Guardians. Attercop, have you read a lot of Guardians comics?
Read a lot of Guardians comics.
There's a lot of. I'm surprised. There's been a lot of different Guardians teams and different members. I mean, that's pretty common across Marvel in general, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a fun fact about me for the listeners. Back when I used to sell comics and work for a company and stuff, I actually brokered a deal selling 16 pages of the original Guardians of the Galaxy comic. So some of the original Jim Valentino pages. And it was between negotiations with an art museum in New York and a big West Coast dealer. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. What were the original? Who were the original Guardians?
Oh, we have, I believe, most of them. It's going to be like Martin X and Charlie 13, but I'm sorry, Charlie 27, Vance Astro or Major Victory. Their names change.
Yeah,
and I'm blanking on the rest of them right now.
I did not plan to ask that question, but that's
well,
pretty
here
good,
we are.
I grew up in Portland, so I went to Dark Horse a lot. So
with the Guardians team, my view of the Guardians team is, I think this probably even more than the Avengers is it doesn't really have an identity that it wants.
Yes, that is correct.
To it's if there was an identity chosen for the Guardians or like a theme or what the designers wanted Guardians to be, I don't see that in the game.
That's because you haven't read Guardians comics.
I mean, I've read some Guardians comics, not a lot.
Sure.
I read when Tony Stark joined the Guardians, at least helped him out.
I see.
Yeah, you know which ones I'm talking about.
Sure, yeah.
But do you disagree? I mean, I'm looking at these cards and I see, like some of the basic allies are trait locked, but not all of them. I don't even know that most of them are trait locked, which is fine. But like, is that purely mechanical? Is there a theme? Is there a thematic reason for it? That's, I guess, to your point, right? Is I haven't read the comics, so
at least to me, they're very thematic.
Okay.
Do you want me to elaborate on that?
Yes, please. I'm looking at these and I'm just like, okay, I mean, I'm all for heroes feeling different, like true to their identity, right?
Sure.
The developers choose a period of time where that hero was doing X thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they build mechanically that hero's shtick or their hook.
Right.
But I feel like the Guardians as team as a whole lacks that cohesion even more than the Avengers, because I feel like the Avengers are like very support based in necessarily the card, but like supporting the table, right?
Right.
Champions,
and I agree with you.
Champions, you talked about like they feel very underdog, right? Like you look at them, you're like, okay, that's kind of underwhelming, but then you get like, again, I agree with you guys. Go for Champions mobile bunker. Like you're building around these cards, you're putting them in there, and when you play it, everyone around the table is like, holy crap, none of us are taking damage. You know, like that's a very underdog feeling event or situation in the game. Guardians, I don't see that. But please elaborate on it. Help me open my eyes.
So the thing about Guardians that separates them apart from other teams is that they're not a team. They're an incidental group of people who are willing to work together long enough to get an objective done, and especially in the modern runs, they assemble and disassemble very frequently. That's why there's like weird rosters like with Adam Warlock in it, and maybe Rocket Raccoon is leading, or maybe Star-Lord is there. I don't know. Maybe Iron Man is there, like you said. But mostly it's a bunch of people who are capable of hanging out in space, who work together long enough to solve whatever world-ending problem is about to go down. And with respect to that, I would say that they shouldn't have a degree of cohesion, but instead what they should have are batches of cards that work very well with specific heroes. Because a lot of times they break up and they go do their different parts of the mission, sort of like an Ocean's 11 kind of thing.
Okay.
And with that in mind, like Star-Lord's Blaze of Glory, or presumably Star-Lord's Blaze of Glory because of his inherent synergies, or like Hit and Run not being a Gamora card, but being very, very synergistic with Gamora. As well as, I'm sure you found some cards that work really nice with Drax that you wouldn't necessarily play with any card. Although that hinges more mechanically than anything else on their hero build rather than being a guard. But in general, yeah, they all kind of do their own thing.
So that's actually really interesting. and a really cool perspective. Do you think then that the Guardians thematically lend themselves to being played like as like a true solo in that sense? It's not like
I do.
It's not like okay.
So I played a lot of Star-Lord. Actually, I played a lot of Star-Lord. I think I did a run of like 20-something games with him in a row. And honestly, like that Blaze of Glory build was the most fun that I had, and it felt really Star-Lordy because there were turns where you're just like, all right, let's make this free and hope we don't die, and flip and kill stuff, or maybe not kill stuff and die.
Yeah.
And that seemed, at least to me, that seemed like a Star-Lord style plan of attack.
Hey. Well, that's a good perspective that I mean, I guess I can't argue with it.
You can if you
I mean, it
like.
makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. That's pretty cool though. Anything else on Guardians? Or any like stand-up cards? You mentioned Blaze of Glory, Hit and Run, which isn't necessarily a super
No, Hit and Run is not a super stand-up card.
But I think in Gamora, I think it works. And by the way, my playstyle is, and we'll probably talk about this another time, or maybe in a separate video or something. But like I'm all about doing combos and stuff that may be not super efficient for that is awesome. That's an awesome moment, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not like, and it's not wrong to play the game like to be super power, like go super hard on the power, right? But that's not what I'm trying to do almost every time I play the game.
There's a term for that.
Yeah.
It's called being a Johnny. So Johnny is your combo player. Like they just want to make cool interactions.
Yeah.
And
kind of a Johnny player.
There's records of Dan and I playing games together, and when I play with Dan, I go out of my way to just see what cool thing I can do that may not be in the best interest of all players, meaning him at the table. So I definitely feel you that you'd rather just go for something flashy than something consistent.
Like obviously, if I can do something that's gonna like defeat the villain to win the game, I'm gonna do that and not the flashy thing, right? But
well, most of the time,
most of the time. Anyway, so it sounds from what you're saying, it sounds like Guardians are a good a good option for that play style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I guess I just got to get back to some of those decks then, and not only play Drax. So
yeah, look at Gamora. Like she's built to be played solo because she just does everything you need her to do.
Yeah, Gamora is a good
and Venom, right?
definition
Venom
and Venom. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Is this?
Gamora is the definition of what?
Yeah, Gamora is a definition of Johnny style play style. She's very combo-y. She's very much, I do this to be able to do this.
Okay. All right, I like it. All right, let's go into Web Warriors. So I'm counting Miles in this as well. So he's I think he's the only hero we have that if we're looking at these 5 teams strictly based on traits, that he's in 2 of them. I think he's the only one that's in 2. Am I right? I think that's right. So you have Miles and Spider-Ham and Spider and Ghost Spider, right? Because Peter Parker
Spider and yeah, don't forget Spider.
Yeah, Spider
Penny?
and
Penny.
Yeah, Penny. And but not Peter Parker because they didn't put the Web Warrior trait on him.
That's I hate him.
Yeah. They retcon that with an upgrade, right? But
they should have made that upgrade a permanent upgrade though.
Well,
like a start and play upgrade.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Should Peter Parker be considered a Web Warrior in this game?
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be silly to say anything otherwise.
Okay. Then Miles and Peter are on 2 teams then.
Sweet. We did it.
Okay.
We did all this just to make you wrong.
We did it, fam. All right, so it's just not printed on there. But we were actually funny story. We were actually talking about as a reward for our patrons to do stickers so that people could sticker on a Web Warrior trait on Peter Parker. We decided that most people probably would never put the sticker on the card, so we decided not to do it. But that was a serious consideration for.
Between all the promos I have of freaking Peter Parker, I got like 23 different versions of him. So yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Wow, really? How'd that happen?
I don't know. I got a whole stack of Gen Con promos. Plus, I got the one that looks like a comic book. I got there's like the original heroes had so many alternate art promos
Yeah.
in front of them.
What a great problem to have, Grim.
Yeah, tell me about it. In fact, I need to get you guys. I need to send these to Dan so that way he can give them out to people.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of Spider-Man and the Web Warriors, what's their identity? Like what do the Web Warriors do? What do they want to do?
They work very well with their allies.
They work very well with their allies.
Yeah.
A lot of Web Warrior traded allies.
Yep. And abilities and cards like the plus they have some really good upgrades with the Web of Life and Death and the other one. Like there's some really good cards, like not just the hero, but like the cards themselves. There is some standout cards.
Keep going, man.
So yeah, are you talking? What I'm trying to think of the one. You're not talking about Across the Spider-Verse, are you?
Yeah, that's one of them. I know that one's good too.
That one's you exhaust a Web Warrior card you control, search the discard pile for a Web Warrior ally and put it into play.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
an amazing card.
And
That's
and
right.
if you just happen to be running protection and you're running silk, yeah.
So can I tell you guys something? Web Warriors is my least favorite of all the teams, and my least played.
Spoiler, mine's going to be the opposite.
So
Well, you and
I
me both, Amerikano.
I knew that I didn't feel bad saying that because I know Crimson loves the Web Warriors, and that's good. Like I don't have any problems with that. The funny thing is I don't know. Do they have mostly like protection allies? They don't have any leadership allies or anything, do they?
No, they should have a decent split through. It's just the big ones like Spider Noir and Silk are both protection, which are super good.
So here's some of my issues with like the Web Warrior team. Okay, so you have like one of my least favorite cards in the game is Spider Tingle.
What?
So interrupt. It's an upgrade, 1-cost upgrade. When you reveal an encounter card, deal 1 damage to a Web Warrior card you control. Arrow. If that card is a treachery, cancel its 1 revealed effects and discard Spider Tingle. Why are Web Warriors taking damage to do this? Because of a Spider Tingle. That is dumb.
I don't know, but it's still one of the best cards in their kit by far. Because unlike Black Widow, it doesn't redraw the treachery. It just straight up. It's a counter spell.
That's not her card. You're thinking of a Justice card. Black Widow's card just gets rid of it.
Oh,
so Spider Tingle though, you deal damage to Web Warrior character, right?
It's
probably going to be your hero. 1 damage before you reveal the card.
Take 1.
Before you take 1 before you reveal the card, then you reveal it, and if it's a treachery, then you can't cancel it. If it's not a treachery, guess what? Nothing happens and you took a damage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand the damage part either. Maybe it was to keep it fair, because otherwise it'd probably be too powerful.
I mean, you could easily just require that your hero have the Web Warrior trait and like trait lock it because it's a Spider Tingle and do the exact same effect.
still might be too powerful without
Okay,
the
then
damage.
you make it cost two.
They,
I don't have any
they could have
problems
moved the
with.
damage. They could have moved the damage to after.
Sure. I just think that the damage, like, that is a weird thing to have. And I'm not a developer of the game, right? And again, I just got through talking about how, like, power cards, I'm not, like, super hung up on only playing power cards, because I think that if you do that, you lose a lot of the card pool. The disconnect on this card for me is super high, and I can't get past it. You
Yeah,
can,
see,
and
this
that's fine
definitely
if people
is.
love playing it.
Yeah,
I just
this is
can't get past it
definitely
to where I'm like,
more.
why? Why is there damage? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
But
this is definitely more of a Spike card than a Johnny card. This is not, oh, I want to play fun card game. This is, I'm playing Stasis Lock, I'm playing Big Blue, I'm denying whatever I can, I'm making the game fun for me and probably nobody else.
it's like Thwip Thwip does the same thing where you deal damage to a character, but then you get to play some stun cards, which is, I mean, it costs 2 in addition to dealing damage.
Stun's not
So,
going to save you from a Shadows of the Past.
but sure. But I think that stuns are I mean, correct. Yes.
I'd rather be attacked than flip over a Shadows. Although,
Aside
at the
from
same point,
the
Thwip is also really good.
I think thematically, the Spider Tingle, like what it does, makes a lot of sense. The effect. I think Thwip Thwip, what it does, makes a lot of sense thematically. The effect, the cost, I'm so hung up on, and I'll stop talking about it now.
Yeah,
So
see, as a control style player, this thing could say take 10 damage, and I'd probably still play. Okay, maybe not, but
That's not true.
I mean, like literally, the damage is so
do any of
the
those
damage
Web
is so
Warrior characters
little
have 10?
that it
Spider
doesn't
Ham?
even the damage just doesn't even matter. It's a non thing for me.
There you have it. So I guess part of it is, for me, I see it and I'm like, okay, so there's some cards with Web Warriors that they want to like take damage to do things, and maybe that was just a balancing thing. It just seems kind of weird. And then they have, I'm pretty sure, all of their basic allies are trait locked, which probably makes sense thematically. I don't know. I've only read you know, what was the one with the inheritors? Why can't I think of that comic run?
That was an Amazing Spider-Man Straczynski one.
Yes.
But
So
that wasn't with like other spider heroes. If we're
the
thinking of the right one.
maybe I'm thinking of Spider-Geddon or whatever it was, something like
Oh,
that.
where they come back probably. That makes sense.
So maybe thematically it makes sense that these Web Warriors can't really team up with other teams. I don't
I think
know.
it was more of a decision of not thematics, but power level. Because if you look, most of the Web Warrior basic allies are under cost for what they do. So to allow them to be as cheaply cost as they are, they had to trait lock them.
I think the issue is that they're trait locked because nobody but other spider people know they exist. No, that's not. I mean,
That might be the theme there.
They're from a
Yeah,
different multiverse.
exactly. Like they don't have a connection to the Great Web, so they don't know that they exist. So how are they going to play them if they can't? If they've never heard of them?
And so for me, like the way that you explain that thematically, that's fine. I get that. That works for me. And theme is a big part of this game for me, right? Because you want to feel like you're playing the hero that you choose.
I agree. Themes should be a big part, but themes should never be pushed over gameplay.
I disagree.
For a card game, I think you can have the
game.
most thematic card game in the world, and it will fail if the gameplay is not solid.
Yeah, I agree with you.
A good example is Eve, the card game. The theme for that card game was amazing.
Is it counting?
Failed because you know at the same point the gameplay wasn't very fun.
But why would people play the card game when they can play the regular game?
Because you got to think back early 2000s. You know, I played games at home. you played card games at the card shop.
Right. But I mean, what I guess the question is like, there's been a lot of spin-off games of video games, and I think that the doom of a lot of those games, like there was a Halo model game. I believe that died because while Halo's popular, people would rather stay home and play Halo. You know. But in terms of like mechanics, overriding good gameplay, I do agree with you. But obviously, this is like a personal preference thing because there's been a lot of comic IP related games over the years, and at this point, I would rather see a more heavily theme based game than a more mass market game system that just is skinned in Marvel. Do you know what I'm saying?
I feel like
a good example is Versus.
Mhm.
In my opinion, Versus is more gameplay oriented than theme oriented.
Yeah, and Versus was a fun game, and it did scratch that competitive itch, but it did also fail. But whether that's because of the strength of the game or the strength of the
theme
parent company,
yeah,
I believe that it more has to do with UDE. But
I really think it's a hand and foot kind of thing. Like you need both to be exceptional.
right, and I'm just saying that I cast my lot on the thematic side,
and I lean more towards the other way.
Look at that, and both of you guys enjoy this game.
Uh-huh.
So, so I will say, I guess for me, like thematically, all I'm saying is thematically for those trait locked allies, that makes sense to me. And I think there's a disconnect for me personally when it comes to the theme because of some of those web warrior cards that cause the character or a unit or a hero or whatever, a character damage to do a thing.
Yeah, I don't know why they chose damage. They could have chose discard cards. They could have chose anything.
So it's like, I mean, anyway, it could have easily been just a trait lock thing, just like the allies, right? And then web warriors that thematically I can buy into. They have like, well, it doesn't really make sense to have Ironheart have Spider Tingle, but I think it's trait locked anyway. But
it's not. Well, the damage is straight locked, but obviously you're missing the major point of this card is that it's a Spider Ham card. So
Spider Tingle is.
That's the only downside to Web Warriors.
Sure, that's the only. That's true because I don't play Spider Ham. So there you go.
The damage is just extra value,
right? It was put in there to be put into Spider Ham. Yeah, you're 100% right. I'm missing the point because I don't play Spider Ham. So
yep, and this is another foil to you. Point to Spider Ham.
I would also like to see in the future maybe a team that does the trait locking like that, where the card is available for everybody, but if you're running, that's their whole theme is if you are part of their team, you get extra. Which
guess what?
Probably something they'll end up doing a lot more of.
I think X-Men does the best with that type of thing so far.
I think they're close. The battle training still require X-Men. They're lock. But
like, what's the one I'm thinking of? Is it Danger Room?
Wait, are we going to X-Men right now?
Let's talk about X-Men. Let's talk about X-Men because I feel like I get what you're saying, Crimson. I agree that it's not like you're talking almost like there's a kicker for a specific team.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to see that mechanic come up with maybe like Fantastic Four or maybe, the next team that we get. Who knows what it's going to be.
I really like that under the idea of Fantastic Four because of them like inventing things that other teams have used.
Yep.
But are better if they're using it.
So cool. That would be cool. So X-Men don't do that specifically, but I feel like a theme that comes from the X-Men is they have these supports, or I think they're all like a lot of the supports. That what I'm thinking of is it doesn't require you to have like the X-Men trait, but like it allows like these cards, like Danger Room, for example, is one I'm thinking of. It's a basic support that costs 2. It's an alter ego response. After an X-Men ally enters play, exhaust Danger Room. And then you search your deck and discard pile for a training upgrade and attach it to that ally. So you can have this in front of you. Someone else plays an X-Men ally, whether you're playing an X-Men character or not, right? you exhaust it. If you're an alter ego, you go search your deck for a training upgrade.
Yeah. X-Men's
Then
theme.
any player whose alter ego has the mutant trait may trigger this ability. So that's almost like what you're saying, Crimson, where it's like if your alter ego doesn't matter, if I'm the only one that has to be an alter ego, anyone else that has an alter ego in the mutant trait can trigger that ability. I guess
Yeah.
you'd have to be in alter ego because
Mutant
it
trait.
says alter ego response, so you'd have to be you have to be able to trigger it. So
the
but
theme with X-Men isn't like Guardians where everything's like super trait locked. The X-Men's theme is more they get better with the more X-Men players at the table.
that's I think I agree with that. Yeah. Because of the
Certainly.
way that these supports work together.
Yeah.
Before we
and
do move on, though, Amerikano,
Yeah.
read the last sentence of Danger Room.
Any player whose alter ego has the mutant trait may trigger this ability.
Yeah, meaning that you don't have to be an alter ego.
Right. Well, I that's how I initially read it, but I think you're probably right. But the ability specifically says alter ego response, so I don't know.
Right.
I'm not
I think the end clarifies that anybody at the table on alter ego can do it. Just for the listeners.
So I mean, but cards like this seems to be like a theme. Let's see. Let me think of
With
another
X-Men,
one.
yeah.
X-Jet.
Yeah,
X-Jet?
X-Jet, Utopian.
X-Jet. Exhaust the X-Jet. Generate a wild resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. Doesn't have to be for yourself, but it's helping other X-Men, right? So, I don't know. I mean, Crimson, you've read a lot of X-Men comics. Does that seem like... I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to tie thematically into.
Yeah,
It would
X-Men
work
is
for
a
any group
large...
except for the Guardians, right?
Yeah,
Right?
X-Men is a large team. But maybe not in the game right now, but like in the comics, they're a large team. They have multiple like sub teams, like X Factor, X Force.
I think they're gonna do those as
various
separate
silly
things,
reasons.
Yeah.
In this game, there's no way we're gonna have. I mean, they're gonna have X Force as its own team in this game. I think
They would be what I would call like a sub team.
Absolutely, yeah.
What I liked, and we started to see it more now that we've got Jean Grey out, and we've seen it before with a couple other ones, is the sub tribes, which is like psychic, mystic. I'm waiting for more, but we're getting there. Like Mystic has a good sub tribe.
So I wanna come to that at the very end. We'll have a question that talking about traits and sub tribes, that's a question that we got from a listener. I want to ask that towards the end, and we'll come back to that because that'll be a good question to wrap this whole discussion up. Because I agree. I think this is a good episode to talk about that. So the other one I was thinking of was X Mansion. It does the same type of thing where it's you can do something that directly benefits. It could benefit yourself, but it can directly benefit anyone that has the mutant or X-Men trait.
They're very good working together.
And for me, that has been pretty awesome. I think it helps. You don't have to play because this game is as a cooperative game. You could play it solo. It's a completely viable way to play. But I feel like that that way of playing the X-Men lends itself to being more cooperative.
Yeah.
It's another layer of cooperativeness that didn't really exist in the game before.
No, I very much like it. I think X-Men is a solid team.
So, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say about X-Men other than I've had a lot of fun using those types of things. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
they're dead on. Like they're thematically correct. Everybody is buddies. Well, loosely buddies, but and everybody wants to help each other again, loosely. But mechanically, yeah, it feels good. It encourages you to bring a bunch of mutants to the table, whether you're playing multi-handed solo or playing with all your buddies. And I think it's honestly like it's a really strong, cohesive mechanic that I would use to introduce people to the game as the first team.
just don't play as Cyclops because
No, Cyclops is.
I'm just
Other
kidding.
than
I'm just
Wolverine.
kidding. I'm
Wolverine's
just
the
kidding.
best,
Oh.
I'm bringing
All
Cyclops.
right,
to the heroes.
So let's do this then. To wrap it up. Since let's rank. Let's do fun. I don't want to talk about power. I want to talk about fun for you, because we can't really argue with each other on that. And I don't.
We can argue. Trust me.
Let's
Nice
talk. Let's
try.
rank. Let's rank the teams from 1 to 5, from most fun for you to least fun. And least fun doesn't necessarily mean like you hate them, right? And this is very subjective, and also like the Avengers have 20 heroes, so like it's kind of all over the place. But let's give it a shot, and then after that, we'll ask that we'll talk about the one question that has to do with traits, not specifically to teams, but traits specifically. So,
Sure.
I'll go ahead and rank mine first. So, I think for me it goes.
Dan would go last, right?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just gonna start us off. I go Champions, X-Men, Avengers, Guardians, Web Warriors. That's my 1 to 5. And Champions for me, I'm gonna say this. Ironheart, Nova, and Miles are super fun for me to play. Like all 3 are super fun. And Miles has grown on me, and I'm sure that Miss Marvel will grow on me. That's all I'll say.
Those sub books. That's good. That's good.
So that's where I'm at. What do you guys?
Yeah, mine's. Well, I guess I'll just do it, right? First, it's still going to be Avengers for me. Thematics, I like a lot of Avengers. Obviously, my favorite character is an Avenger, and I just like building with those characters. Second is going to be X-Men. But it's honestly, it's very, very close. Like, it's super close. I'm so happy with all of the X-Men product. It's really, really cool. Third would be Guardians, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. As a primarily solo player, it's really cool just to kind of have a hero that I can reliably take through different things. Plus, it is thematic, as Amerikano learned tonight.
Yes, I did.
After that, it's Champions. I think the Champions are cool. I just don't think that they're for me. Like, I'm just not interested in them as characters for the most part. And then last would be Web Warriors. As much as I love Spider-Ham, I'm not crazy about all the rest of them. So they mostly just sit, but I always have them available for friends because they seem to like them quite a bit.
There you go. All right, Crimson.
Yeah. My number one's going to be My number one's going to be Web Warriors.
Sure.
They're all great other than Spider-Ham.
Okay, all right, incorrect, but keep going.
I really like Ghost Spider. I love Spidar. Spider Penny. She feels like I'm playing Magic. She's great. I'll absolutely love her. Then I would go. It's really close. X-Men than Champions, and the only reason why X-Men beats out Champions is because it's X-Men. Kenneth's got Wolverine. The X-Men theme is so good. Especially, the X-Men theme brought me back into playing with more than one person versus being a true solo player, because it's fun to play X-Men with another X-Men player. Champions is just power. Like, I'm a Spike player. I care about the power of the cards, not the frills of the card. And Champions is a very powerful group, with Nova and Ironheart. Miles is fun to play, but he's not the power that those two are. Then Avengers, because unfortunately, like, Avengers doesn't really, like, I don't pick up a new Avengers character and go, oh, what Avengers cards can I play with? It just doesn't have a lot of theme beyond, just the word Avenger on the character for me. But they have really powerful characters like Captain America, Doctor Strange,
Hulk.
Hulk is great. I mean,
Yes.
I know everybody hates it, but dude, Justice Hulk is still one of my favorite decks.
Yes.
Then Guardians. I can't stand playing the Guardians characters. Gamora is probably the only shining light in that group. I don't like Drax. I don't like Star. I hate Star Lord. I just don't like the cards. I don't like the theme, I guess. I just they're not ones that I will go to generally. But Web Warriors is probably my favorite because of just the interactions between the different Web Warriors and the amount of control that they bring. They really do have a lot of control.
All right. So yeah, and I think just to explain my champions, I think there are a lot of event-based, event-focused decks, and I like doing that. I like just throwing down an event and having things happen. So
You like opening your hand and seeing what the events are going to do, and not have to set it up. Like you're ready to go.
I'm just go bam bam. I did these 3 things or 2 things. Yeah, it's maybe it's because I don't want to think very hard. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, those are our thoughts on the teams that we have so far in Marvel Champions. Obviously, the X-Men will continue to grow. Right now, we're going to be getting who? We're getting Gambit and Rogue coming up. And so that'll add to the X-Men team, and moving forward, let's see. Hopefully, we'll get some new teams. We mentioned some of our hopes, like Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four would be the one that I
Defenders
would hope for.
Would be great.
Defenders.
Which Defenders?
Come on, man.
Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange, Hulk. Yes, absolutely.
we just need Silver Surfer there. They're gonna retcon Hulk.
Finally.
I just need Daredevil in this game.
Oh, you mean that Defenders?
I mean that Defenders. I
need
Daredevil.
Marvel Knights.
There's like 2 Daredevils in this
Knights,
game.
There you go.
There's literally 2 Daredevils in this game.
Yeah, man. How many more do you need?
You have the same amount of Daredevils as I have Wolverines.
Exactly. You tell him. Tell him, Grim.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll be back again. Next time we'll talk about Mojo Mania, and
wait, aren't we going to talk about?
You're right. Okay.
Yeah, nice try, dude. We're not done talking.
He was like, "I'm out. They're dissing my Daredevil."
Yep. All right. So because we've talked a lot about teams and the traits, specifically about teams, this is a question we got. What traits, whether hero or villain, would you like the design team to do more with? So, Crimson, you alluded to something earlier. Why don't you go ahead and
so there are a couple that I think are either in a good spot or definitely would love to see more of. The big one is obviously the one that I feel is in a good spot is Mystic. Mystic has actually a lot of cards for it. But we're seeing a lot more Psychic with obviously X-Men being Psychic, with the possibility of, hopefully we see Psylocke at some point, which she would also be another Psychic, plus Jean Grey. There's also another subtype that I would love to see more of, and that's preparations.
Yes,
they did it once with the Black Widow, but I would like to see more preparations brought into the game. I like that playstyle of, Yu-Gi-Oh! Trap card type thing. Haha, you've activated my trap card type thing.
That's what I say anyway.
Yeah, come on, right? But yeah, the subtypes are really good, and we're starting to see more and more of them.
Okay. What about you, Attercop?
Yeah, I would like to see more genius cards that play off the keyword genius. Because I just want this stage set for when we finally get Reed.
Civilian?
No, genius. That must be my accent.
No, but I mean, we've got some civilian support cards, but it would be nice to see some more because you can only be a civilian in Alter Ego.
Yeah, Kennedy Hawks was Arrow. He wants to see Arrow trade
that's wrong.
Support.
His opinion. Too bad it's wrong.
Mine, I would like to see them do more with Soldier. there's
Oh,
very
okay.
few soldier, and I know that's kind of a like
You just want
out of left. That's part of it. I think that's part of it. I think that, and this might be sort of a bifurcating opinion, but I would like to see the Punisher in this game too.
Yes.
He's been on some art, so I don't think it's like it would be
Impossible.
crazy to see him.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some things that they can do with Soldier in that vein.
I agree with
like
you, honestly.
like support
I
like
totally
a
agree with you.
soldier, an identity that has soldier can you can play an upgrade that allows you to like an additional holster or something. I don't know, things like that. You can
We have that.
I know we have a holster. I'm just saying, like, can you imagine though Venom with 5 guns? Like,
Finally, the dream.
finally, like, why is he limited to 3 anyway? So I think that there's not a lot there. I think that it's not a priority, but in a perfect world, I think that would be something that we could get, and it would make Captain America even better. So.
I would love to see Punisher as the basic ally for the Defenders, like Nick Fury is for the Avengers. I would think that'd be great.
Man, not like you like a memory unlocked when you said that, and I'm surprised that we're this far into the game and we don't have a Bucky hero.
I know, and I think that goes along with what Crimson said. Is if we got I think that they would, with a Bucky hero, we'd probably get some protection or some preparation support.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, if we had a Bucky hero, I'd probably put up other heroes for like a year.
I expect that at some point we will have a full cycle of like random heroes or ally turned hero.
Some like
cycle.
some fill in the gap. Like,
Yeah.
so like for example, you'll get Bucky, and
You might get a new Avenger. You might get a new Guardian character. You might get a Thor Guardian character. You might get a new champion character in that.
Right.
That cycle.
Guys, be serious. We're gonna get a cycle of the young commandos with the battling boy commando, Bucky himself, based on the World War II era when they're all children with guns.
No, New Mutants is next.
Let's be real.
All right. Well, that was my pick with Soldier. So now we'll end it.
Now
Thanks
it's
for
over.
sticking around with us for an hour to listen to us talk about traits and the teams, about the game that we all like to play.
Thanks for listening to our fireside chat.
I hope you enjoyed trading your time for some of ours.
And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
You might not see Attercop next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Marvel Champions Monthly. If you liked this content, be sure to like, subscribe, or leave a comment on the video, letting us know what else you would love to see from the world of Marvel Champions. You can also join us on our Discord, or support our work on Patreon in the links in the description below.